Well, a typical workplace environment can draw people from different sectors of our society, including people who up until now have often been kept in the margins. But how do workspaces make sure everyone feels included in the face of diversity? Over the next 3 days, the University of Stellenbosch is hosting the Global Gender Work and Organisation Conference. It's the first for our continent. They're looking at issues around women and other groups of people who have been marginalised. They want to reduce exclusion. Professor Anita Bosch is at the Stellenbosch Business School. Professor Bosch, good evening to you and thank you for your time. I think most people at some time have felt excluded, not part of an office. No one really wants me. It can be about many, many things. The words used, the jokes used, the culture, the toilets. It can be about how people are addressed. It can be about all sorts of things. How should a business make sure that everyone is included, but more importantly than that, everyone feels included?
Stephen, this is the big question that we're debating, and it's been around for quite some time. We've made great progress, and our Constitution certainly supports a lot of these thoughts. But what we've found is that researchers are pretty much stuck in some of the ideas researched in the West, and the fact that the GWO conference is now for the first time on the African continent means that what we want to bring is our voices, our experiences, and add to that debate in order to find some solutions.
I think some bosses may believe that a workplace culture is organic, that it happens, I put this in inverted commas, sort of naturally. But can a boss, can a management really influence a workplace culture? Can they make a deliberate intervention to make sure it is properly welcoming?
Yes, and in fact, we find that that is very much possible. And if you think about workplace cultures, they develop over time because people have particular habits and do things in a particular way. And the way workplaces have been constructed in the past is primarily around the people that have been around a lot. And that would include men, it would include white individuals, and heteronormative individuals. And so when we think about changing workplace cultures, it really has to be quite a deliberate effort. We see organizations such as, for instance, Microsoft CEO speaking about his largest role being to give effect to a new workplace culture. And with this particular conference, there's such a wide variety of papers that are being presented where people move right from thinking about women breastfeeding and how that is normalized. In fact, with this very specific conference, we've invited participants to bring their families, their children. There's a nursing room. We're really trying to change even conferencing as it usually is. And there have been delegates that have made use of these services just to broaden our thinking. So even for us as researchers, we need to think how to do things differently, and it has to be a deliberate effort.
I sometimes think that for many people, as you enter a building, you kind of know if you really want it here, if you are going to feel that you belong, and everyone should feel that they belong. But so often, particularly I think in our country, our buildings don't give that message. I realize this is not an architecture conference, but there are things that you can do to buildings, to what's happening in reception, to how things look, to the toilets. I use that example deliberately. You can just make changes with the structure that will change how people feel.
Yeah, even just those small things. And as I said, a nursing room, for instance, just says that we accept that people lactate, that they breastfeed, and therefore, we're accepting of all types of bodies in this space. When I think about, reception areas, it takes me back to where I worked when I was much younger in a factory area, and where there were pin-up girls on the walls, and what that meant for me when I stepped into that area each day. And eventually, became, I suppose, the intellectual activist that I am right now. So there are very varied ways in which we really can help ourselves and workplaces to become much more inclusive. And it doesn't have to be a massive change. It's even just in the way we greet people, and also how we include them during a meeting and give them an opportunity to speak. And that in itself can create a major difference to individuals.
Professor Anita Bosch, thank you at the Stellenbosch Business School. Really do appreciate the time on the pulse tonight.